What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 340 of AskGSM here today for Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. First and foremost, appreciate all the birthday wishes from yesterday. Had a great day. I'm enjoying the month of June so far. I know there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, which I will get soon into, between the whole COVID thing and the protests and everything else. It's a pretty crazy time right now in the world, and I hope you guys are just staying safe, staying positive and whatnot, but we'll get right into it. So if you want to send any questions into the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, albeit sometimes a little later than usual. Like last night, I completely forgot until RJ reminded me, so shout out to him. But you can check that out every single Tuesday. And then also right here on the video itself in the comment section down below, drop your question in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So without further ado, let's get started here. I don't have too much time. Starting with FD from Facebook, his first question was, do you feel that Nia Jax is perhaps the most unsafe WWE superstar that the company has ever had with her track record of injuring a lot of wrestlers during her tenure? If you are one of the higher-ups in the WWE, what is the first order of action of what you would do to Nia Jax after seeing the recent botch that she did towards Kairi Sane, considering her past track record? Yeah, Nia Jax was a hot topic this week in the world of wrestling just because of what happened with Kairi on Raw and what happened with Kairi the last time they faced off. I've spoke about Nia before here on the show. She's fucking terrible. She's fucking terrible, and she might be a very nice person. That's awesome. In the ring as a professional wrestler, not to say that I could ever do what she does, but I think it's a pretty popular opinion to say that Nia Jax is no good. She was called up way too quickly and has no business being in that ring, whether it be at this point on NXT, Raw, SmackDown, wherever. She is no fucking good. You would think, I know she was hurt for the last year, but like, okay, maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder. Nia Jax is back now. Maybe she improved in her time away, and hey, I said that she was hurt for the last year. That's actually inaccurate. Nia Jax had actually said recently she's been cleared to compete, I think, since November. It was either her or Jinder who said that. I'm pretty sure it was Nia who said that she's been good to go since fucking November. And they sat her on the shelf for an additional 4 or 5 months. I don't feel that was long enough. Because if she's been training this whole time in the ring at the PC, then why isn't she any better at the moment? She's fucking terrible. Her and Kairi just don't have chemistry. I could see why they do it to kind of make Nia look dominant by beating up the smaller competitor. She's fucking terrible. And maybe Kairi was at fault there. I couldn't really get a good glimpse of what happened during that match on Raw. Maybe it was edited. Who knows? She's terrible. It's not an isolated incident. It's happened so many times before with Nia Jax, whether it be Charlotte or a Becky or a Sasha or a Bayley or a Zelina Vega or an Alexa Bliss. The list goes on and on and on, dude. It's ridiculous. So what I would do, I would get her the hell out of the ring. I mean, she really is not that important to that women's division to where, like, oh, you know, we need her around. We need the star power. She's just not good. She should not be that. She should not be the Raw Women's Champion. I know she's the number one contender right now, and I fear for Asuka's career and life come the Backlash pay-per-view next weekend. I would get her the hell out of the ring, at least send her back down to either developmental or whatever, NXT, to just get better. I mean, that really isn't that far-fetched. I know he wasn't on the main roster for long before he went back down to developmental, but Big Show was on the WWE main roster. I mean, he was in WCW for years, but he was on the main roster in the main events of WrestleManias and Raws and all these prominent storylines, and they realized he just wasn't ready yet. So they sent him back down to OVW for a little while. And what was it, late 2000, probably 01? Because he was at WrestleMania 17, probably the latter half of 01. Came back in 02 as a fucking monster, and he had a great run in 02 over on the SmackDown brand. So, yeah, I mean, it happened with Mark Henry. Same thing. I know these are all giants, Nia, Big Show, Mark. It's not just a big person thing. It's not a monster heel thing, but just all people who needed additional tweaking and fine-tuning. Mark Henry was another guy who had come into the company in, 93? 95, I think it was, 95. And he was around for a while before they sent him back down to developmental in, early 2000s, mid-2000s, because he just wasn't good. and he needed to get better. He was another guy who injured quite a few people, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not The Undertaker, but he definitely injured Batista. And maybe more people, but he went back down to developmental and he got better and he had a great run towards the end of his career in WWE. So with Nia, I would recommend the exact same thing. I don't care if she's been on Raw for 5 years, 2 years, 2 weeks, 10 years. She's fucking bad. She's injuring people. She needs an additional development, additional fine-tuning. And if that doesn't work, I would just cut her ass. Again, like I said, she's not that good or that prominent or that good on the mic in any other area to justify keeping her around if she's a literal liability to that company. FD's second question, with Impact Wrestling Slammiversary coming up on July 18th, and the promo of the event teases several number of recently released former WWE wrestlers jumping ship to Impact. Who do you think will be those stars that will be jumping, or rather going to Impact, this upcoming Slammiversary event? So yeah, I saw that. I did not watch Impact live last night. We were out. But I heard people talking about it. You guys asked me questions about it. So I went back and watched the video. They teased Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Eric Young, Mike and Maria, Bennett, Kanellis, whatever, EC3, Drake Maverick, which is kind of funny because considering tonight he might be the next interim NXT Cruiserweight Champion. I don't think he will, but he's going for that title tonight. And then you see Impact not promoting him, but teasing that he may be coming back to the company for Slammiversary. I highly doubt that all of those people are Impact bound come July. Hey, I think that's a great get for Impact. If so, I love the idea of them picking up Deonna Purrazzo. I said as much. A couple of months ago when she got released from WWE, I said she'd be perfect in Impact. I know AEW needs more women, but she just is a much better fit in Impact. I think, but all the other people that they show, Eric Young, who gives a fuck? Like, if he goes back to Impact, I absolutely could see that. Someone like an EC3 or a Maverick, in my opinion, would be way better off in AEW. Mike and Maria, they were good in Impact for a little while, doing the whole Miracle thing. They were kind of over. Maria was always kind of a prominent figure on the show. Mike kind of fell out of favor with the company towards the end, probably because he had a lot of run-ins with them. He was not a fan of the of the Dixie Carter regime. And then I think he was in Billy Corgan's corner, and it just did not work out for him towards the end there. Never really fulfilled his full potential. But I could see them going back. I would like to see them first in Ring of Honor, but Ring of Honor is not running shows right now, so that may not be possible. EC3, I feel like it would be a cool homecoming for him, but he's just way better off in AEW. I'm sorry, but he's just way better off there. I feel like that would be a step backward. He was already a multi-time world champion in Impact. He was undefeated for years. There really isn't much more there he could do. So I would rather see him move on to bigger and better things in AEW. Gallows and Anderson, again, New Japan is where I would like to see them end up. They were teasing that right after they got released. And I think that's where they will really end back up on in time. That's where they will end back up eventually. But they're also not running shows right now. So I think Impact might be a nice little stop for them. Gallows was there for a little while. The thing with Gallows and Anderson is that they almost followed AJ to TNA. When he eventually signed with WWE, they almost went to TNA, which to me is a massive step backward. They were killing it over in Japan, Ring of Honor. To go to Impact is like, I feel like that's a massive step backward from where they were. So thankfully they went to WWE. And Gallows and Anderson were never utilized, again, to their full potential. But they had a pretty good run. Former multi-time tag team champions, aligned with AJ Styles for a time, competed in main events of pay-per-views and Raws and SmackDowns. And they were even technically involved in the Night 1 main event of WrestleMania 36. So they could have done a lot more with them than they did, but they also weren't completely buried either. So anyway, I think they made the right choice in going to WWE over Impact. It would be nice to see them in Impact. Impact needs more teams. Hopefully the North can travel soon, because they are the current Impact Tag Team Champions. But they're over in Canada at the moment. That's where they live, so they haven't been able to travel. I have no idea when the travel ban... It hasn't been lifted, right? I don't know. I stopped watching the news a while ago. It's all negative stuff at this point. That's a whole other discussion for another day. But I don't think they can travel yet, so that's probably the issue. And with the North, I don't know. If they can't come in, then there's no real championships to fight for. They're having matches with like Falaba and TJP against not the Desi Hit Squad. It was another team, maybe Triple XL, I think it was, and they've had some good matches. But eventually, they're going to need their tag team champions back. So to see Gallows and Anderson mix it up at, the North, I think would be pretty cool, but I would rather see them in New Japan. So there's a good chance we could see a lot of those people at Slammiversary. I think they're just teasing people to get people talking about Impact. They probably saw what they did with Deonna Purrazzo last week, which got a lot of buzz. Because there are a lot of Deonna Purrazzo fans out there, and I'm one of them, so it was cool to see her there. But for everyone else, I highly doubt, maybe I'm wrong, but I highly doubt we see fucking, all these random, former Impact stars come back for a Slammiversary pay-per-view. Probably Eric Young. I had my money on him if I was a betting man. The rest of them, I'm not too sure about. Their third question, do you feel like the upcoming Randy Orton versus Edge match of Backlash will definitely not be living up to their billing of the match as the greatest wrestling match ever, considering their wrestling abilities currently and how their previous last man standing match at WrestleMania 36 went with, a lot of disappointment based on general opinions? Do you consider the billing to be false advertising for WWE? It's not, though. It's not false advertising because greatest is such a subjective thing. They're not saying, oh, it's Edge and Orton, and then it won't be Edge and Orton. You know what's false advertising? Promoting Roman Reigns versus Goldberg for WrestleMania until fucking 2 days out, when they knew a week and a half in advance that he wasn't going to fucking be at the show. I don't care if the shows were in the can. They could have absolutely edited them to say, hey, Roman will not be here. That's not the match that's happening. They literally waited until a throwaway comment made on SmackDown 2 days before the fucking pay-per-view. Come on, dude. I thought that was dumb. That's not false advertising, though, here, because you know what? In their opinion, it could very well be the greatest match ever. And people are talking about, well, maybe it will be the greatest match ever. That's not a majority of people, but I have seen some people say that. I say this, though, with no crowd, there is absolutely no chance. Very little chance, I will say. I can't say a 0% chance, but very little chance that they have the greatest match ever because there's no crowd. It could be a damn good match. I just don't think the advertising is doing them any favors because it's getting people's hopes up for something that may not be as good as we were expecting, like the WrestleMania match. They didn't advertise that as the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, but we all had our hopes up high because the build was great. And ultimately, in my opinion, and other people may disagree, I thought it underwhelmed. It was a good match, could have been a lot better, dragged on, needlessly boring at certain points, and I like the storytelling. But you can't shit on the Batista Triple H match from the year before and then not shit on Edge and Orton. It was the same exact fucking thing. So fucking dumb. And I like Batista and Triple H because I can kind of see the storytelling they were going for, but it was far from a great match. Same thing with Edge and Orton. Same exact thing. So, no, it's not false advertising, but it is unnecessary. But at the same time, though, they want to get people talking about the show. And you know what? We're talking about it, so they succeeded. At Iwagu91, do you see Darby Allin being the one to defeat Cody for the TNT Championship, especially if the crowds are allowed to return at some point? Yeah, I do. I've seen people say that. I completely agree. I think Darby Allin, unless they bring in Zack Ryder and they have him win the championship on night one, which would be kind of interesting, I think Darby Allin is the guy to do it. It makes sense storyline-wise. Cody's not a dumb guy. He's a big storytelling type of person. I'm sure that's where they're going with this. They have faced off 3 times, him and Darby. First at the Fyter Fest pay-per-view, I think it was, in June of last year. It was a 20-minute draw, which was cool. They had a rematch in that same venue on the New Year's Day edition of Dynamite that Cody won in Jacksonville. They had the third match in the, the semifinals of the AEW TNT Championship Tournament. Cody won. So Darby has never beaten Cody, and I think he's a perfect fit for that championship. I wouldn't do that anytime soon. I would build to that in a couple months. Maybe you could do it at the next pay-per-view. Maybe it all out. Maybe that's when they do it, if not soon after. But yeah, I do think this could and should and will probably lead to Darby beating Cody for that championship. Unless there's someone else I'm not thinking of, like it won't be a Colt Cabana or a Jungle Boy tonight, or it could be a new person I'm not thinking of. It could be an EC3. But personally, I think Darby Allin would make the most sense, and he deserves it. At Iwagu91, second question. Considering his wrestling style, do you think Timothy Thatcher should spend his WWE career competing on NXT and potentially NXT UK? Do you also see him joining Imperium? Yeah, you know what? With Thatcher, I don't see a main roster run in his future. I really don't. They're pushing him harder than they ever did Cassius Ohno, for one thing. but I think he's one of those guys like Ono who may never make it to the main roster. Although that would be cool, he to me screams Oni Lorcan with hair. Like, he's just a good fit for NXT, NXT UK. Yeah, NXT UK would be cool. If he does everything that he can do in NXT, maybe he starts to make appearances either as a regular or simultaneously over there, or he just switches full-time, like Ono did, over to NXT UK. And yeah, I think he does have history with, I think Walter, and I'm not sure of all the Imperium guys, if not most of them. I don't know if I would have him join Imperium. I think Imperium is good with just the 4 people, Alexander Wolf, Marcel Bartel, Fabian Eichner, and Walter. And they have the NXT UK Championship right now. They have the NXT Tag Team titles, which is pretty cool. Not enough for people are talking about that, but the issue is that we're not seeing Walter right now, so that's probably why. But, yeah, no, Thatcher I think would be a great fit for NXT UK. There's a lot of cool matches to be had over there. Thatcher and Walter I think would be fucking awesome at some point. I would like to see Dragunov be the one to beat Walter for that title whenever that match does happen, because Dragunov on the final actual episode of NXT UK became the number 1 contender to the championship. I know Balor is still owed a title shot. He will get it at some point, I'm sure. I don't know if he's owed one. I'm not sure if they ever announced the match. But Balor and Walter, as great as that would be, I don't think Balor's the guy to take that championship from Walter. I feel like Balor in NXT UK is awesome. He just doesn't need to be the face of that show as the champion. So I think Dragunov is the right guy. Big rub for him. They're pushing him anyway. Thatcher, I don't know if he needs to be the one to beat Walter, but that would be a great match to have at some point, given their history and just the respective, wrestling styles and whatnot. At Iwagu91's third question, will Velveteen Dream end Adam Cole's long reign as NXT champion? I do think he will. I do. So, bit of on that same note, you kind of reminded me, tomorrow I am talking to the NXT champion himself, Adam Cole, baby, for an article for Bleacher Report, which is awesome. So we're going to be talking all about this and his best NXT championship matches in the last year, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. As the, year-long running NXT champion, the longest reigning NXT champion of all time. But I do think the reign ends on Sunday. Now, you might be asking, if I don't think it's Dream, who else do I think it might be? Now, I don't think it should be Dream. Dream, in my opinion, has never been colder than he is right now. And I like Dream a lot, but without crowds, it's not the same. His matches have not been all that great. He's had some good matches, but not great matches with Cole, Fish, Strong, among others. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Dream winning that championship. I think maybe a year or two ago. Not now, though. I just think we're past that point. But with Dream and Cole, though, I do think he's going to end the championship reign on Sunday. If it's not Dream, who would I like to see it be? In my opinion, Keith Lee. I think Keith Lee would be the right guy for the job. He is, I know, the current NXT North American champion. He could very well drop that belt right back to Johnny on Sunday. And I say back to Johnny because Johnny is, blink and you missed it, but he is a former NXT North American champion. He held the belt for all of, 2 or 3 weeks? In storyline, in actuality, it was like 2 or 3 days on NXT a couple of years ago. I think that was last year, actually. So you could have the belt go back to Johnny, and that frees up Keith to go after the NXT Championship. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think it will be Dream taking the title, but personally, and then Adam Cole may very well go to the main roster with the rest, hopefully, of Undisputed Era. But personally, I would rather see it be Keith Lee. Is it too late for Cesaro to ever become a main event talent in WWE? It's never too late. I just don't ever see it happening. Like, if you asked me 5 years ago, is it ever too late for Kofi to become a main event player? And I would have said yes. But then he went on to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 35 in one of the best matches all year. In one of the best WrestleMania moments of all time. So the answer is no. It's never too late. I mean, they could put the belt on a fucking 60-year-old if they wanted to. They could do whatever they want. I just don't think they will. I think they gave up with Cesaro as a real main event player years ago after the whole Paul Heyman thing fizzled out. But he had a lot of momentum before that, and they just never really capitalized on it. He's had momentum since then, which they also never really capitalized. But I feel like with Cesaro, they just view him as either an enhancement talent that's helping put over other people, or as a tag team player. I mean, look at the various tag teams this guy's been in on the main roster in the last 4 or 5 years. Tyson Kidd, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sheamus, Jack Swagger, Cassius Ohno as the Kings of Wrestling and Ring of Honor. The guy is a glorified tag team player. And he shouldn't be. He deserves more than that. But I just don't think they see him being above a certain level, which he is. I just don't see him ever getting beyond that certain level because of how they view him. At Time Bomb Zone from Twitter, with Trey getting attacked, what's the possibility of Wentz being the attacker? So he's talking about Impact. The Rascals, for those who don't watch Impact, you probably have no idea what he's talking about. I actually have no idea what you're talking about either, because as of this recording, I've yet to watch Impact from last night. I did hear about that Trey got attacked, and I think Ace Austin, I believe he went on to become the number one contender, as I figured he would, to the Impact World Championship. Was it Wentz, his tag team partner? I guess it could have been. I think that'd be dumb, just because the Rascals are a great tag team, so why would you break them up? I think that'd be super stupid. So maybe it is. I really hope it's not an Enzo Big Cass type of situation where, they were teasing someone attacked Enzo and they were playing it off as it wasn't Big Cass, but it actually was, and then it led to the breakup of the two of them, and they were both gone from the company within a year, despite being one of the hottest tag teams a year before in WWE. So I think that'd be dumb. I know that's two totally different things, but no, I hope it's not Wentz. It could be, but I really hope it's not. Is the Jeff Hardy segment from last week's SmackDown in poor taste, since he still has an upcoming court date for his last DUI? I think it is. I think it's in poor taste personally. I thought it was a well-done angle, and it made me want to watch the show. Like, they opened up the show at that angle, and the acting was terrible, but I think overall it was a well-done angle, and it made me want to watch what was going to happen next, which I'm sure was the point. My issue with the whole thing is that regardless of whether Jeff said, like, usually I'll say, you know what, if Jeff's good with it, if the person's good with it, then why should we care? The issue is that it doesn't make the company look too good. Because with Jeff Hardy, they've allowed him essentially to go out and drink and drive. And yeah, if he gets, busted for drugs, then they'll suspend him, fire him, whatever. But if it's a drinking thing, they won't do anything about it. They'll be like, oh, we have no, he's responsible for his own actions. It's the fucking boilerplate response they put out after every DUI a performer gets. Most notably in the last couple years with the Usos and Jeff Hardy. It's ridiculous that these people get as many DUIs as they do, and then the company does nothing. And it's funny that the drugs are more of an issue, they'll suspend them for 30 days for smoking weed. Listen, I'm not a weed guy, but I feel like that's a bit stupid to suspend them for 30 days for smoking weed or having weed on them, whatever. Yet, I know it's, illegal in certain states. It's being legalized. I'm not entirely all, intelligent on that situation. I'm a bit ignorant when it comes to that type of stuff. But for me, let's say, for example, Matt Riddle gets caught with weed, gone for 30 days, yet Jeff Hardy can go on the roads, drink and drive, and almost kill people. I feel like that's way worse. I know drinking's not illegal, but drinking while intoxicated certainly is. So I just don't really understand that. So the company, I know they have the whole rehab program. Jeff went to rehab, and that's great. But he had been arrested at least 2 or 3 other times before he went to the rehab. So why didn't he go after the first time? I know it's his choice, but they tried to make Umaga go to rehab, 10 years ago, Carlito go to rehab, and they both said no, and they were fired on the spot. What makes Jeff Hardy any different? I know Jeff Hardy's a much bigger star. They like Jeff Hardy. They want Jeff Hardy. I get it. But to me, I just don't agree with that at all. So, and yeah, he still has an upcoming court date. It's not like these issues with the drinking were from 10 years ago. Like when Samoa Joe did it to me, he didn't do it to me, but when he did it to Jeff a couple of years ago, Jeff was so far removed, seemingly, from those issues, where I didn't really give a fuck that he was, kind of bringing that to light and whatever. But he was literally just arrested 6 or 7 months ago. So the fact they're already going back to this well, to me, is disgusting. Even if Jeff is cool with it, he might be a company guy and saying, hey, I'm cool with it, even though he actually isn't and he's not comfortable. So I'm not a fan with it. I'm not a fan of the storyline. I know it was well done, like I said, and it did make for interesting TV. But on the whole, though, I would rather them move away from that and focus more on his road to redemption than on his issues. If the Drake Maverick release storyline is just a storyline, doesn't make fans question every release after. I mean, people question every release ever anyway. Not like the whole, best of luck in your future endeavors, but like when Dean Ambrose left. Oh, it's all a work. He'll be back as Jon Moxley. Those people have fucking egg on their face now. What a dumb thing to think. I mean, I know it's wrestling and anything can happen. I'm not doubting that. But it was pretty clear that Dean Ambrose was not coming back after a certain point. So, whether it be as Ambrose or Jon Moxley, who gives a shit, So, he wasn't coming back. I don't think Drake Maverick is sticking around. I mean, hey, he could win the championship tonight. But I think they're trying to just make people think that he's still around, or, he's still technically released, and he's still technically under contract for 90 days because they're paying him anyway or some dumb shit like that. I've never seen this happen before, so this is all new to all of us, where they release someone and they continue to use them on a regular basis for the next 3 months, which is just bizarre. It's not like he's working on a per-date basis, like, oh, we'll pay you until the storyline's over. They were already going to pay him anyway, and they figured they would just make the most out of it by using him in the tournament, which to me is weird, but whatever. So I don't think it should make fans question every release, but I think it is kind of gross if this was a storyline the whole time. And I don't think Drake would do that. I think his tears were genuine when he cried when he got fired a couple of months ago. I feel like it'd be fucking gross if they pretended to fire Drake, yet he was around the entire time, yet everyone else was actually gone. I feel like that'd be fucking gross, but that's just me. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the YouTube Machine. Check out Real Honesty with John Ritland for more great content. He's an awesome dude. His first question was, so what are the chances Jackson Riker just tweeted himself right out of a job, especially given how many of his colleagues responded? Yeah, it was a shit show. That is a shit show. You know what? I'll say this quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on the whole thing going on right now. I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now. But specifically with the Jackson Riker thing, I didn't really comment on this for a reason. I don't want to get involved. I don't care where you fall politically. Not Trump supporter. It's some are more questionable than others. I'll just put it that way. At this current time, with what is going on in the world currently, if you are a Trump supporter, he's clearly a very big Trump supporter. He said as much in his tweet. You know what? Whatever. I have my own thoughts on that. I will not make those clear here. But why the fuck would you tweet that? What a dumb thing to tweet. I know everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I totally get that. I'm not going to go tweet, oh, Jackson Riker, you fucking moron, like some people were. And you know what? If you want to do that, that's fine. Maybe I do feel that way. I'm not going to get really into it. I just think that's an insanely dumb thing to say. Let's say you're a fucking terrible person and you're against everything going on right now. You're anti-protest. I'm against the looting and shit. That's a whole other issue. But let's say you're against the whole thing going on right now. Okay? You shouldn't make that clear. I feel like everyone with the social... I fucking hate social media at this point, to a certain extent, because I feel like everyone needs their voice to be heard. You really don't. Just shut the fuck up, dude. If you feel that way, wonderful. Why the fuck would you say that? With everything going on right now and some of the stuff that Trump was saying, why the fuck would you show solidarity towards the dude at this present moment? If you're a regular dude, whatever. But you're in WWE, dude. You have a spotlight on you. Your colleagues feel a very different way. Keep your fucking views to yourself. At least right now. I thought that was a really dumb thing to say. I don't think he's going to get fired. I really don't. Dude, Vince and Donald Trump are in bed together, and not literally, obviously, but they're very good friends. They're not going to fire him for being a Trump supporter. I feel like that'd be hypocritical, given what they've done with Trump over the last number of years, and Linda still being involved and all this other shit. They're not going to fire him. They might tell him, listen, dude, don't tweet anything else. Don't put your fucking foot in your mouth. It's bringing us bad press. Batista was shitting on him, and among other people. So I highly doubt. I would honestly be shocked if they fired the guy. Because okay, it was a shitty thing to say, but did he do anything illegal? I know he's endorsing a questionable human being, to put it lightly, but he's also entitled to his opinion. It was just a dumb thing to say. It's more of a sad tweet type thing, as opposed to, oh, fucking fire the guy, because, he used a racial slur. I know he might be supporting someone who's either is a racist or whatever. Again, I'm not going to get into it, but it's not like Riker himself has said, to our knowledge, any slurs and stuff like that. Again, it's you open up a whole can of worms when you do stuff like that. When you can't fire him, I don't think so. You may believe that he may be fired, and again, I have my own thoughts on certain things when it comes to that. I hate to be vague, but. Just for supporting the president, you can't fire the guy. It was a dumb thing to say, though. An insanely stupid thing to say. Why he would make that public, I have no idea. The guy does not have much brains. I'll put it that way. Linda Hogan said something even worse on her Twitter the other day, and Tony Khan banned her from all the AEW shows. She's an even bigger piece of shit for what she said. Again, I know everyone feels a certain way, but I would just a lot of people should just probably keep their mouth shut and keep their opinions to themselves. Who should AEW have take the AEW Championship from Jon Moxley? Good question. I don't know if MJF is going to be ready by August. Probably not Brian Cage. I think Brian Cage, it would be too soon. Maybe MJF. I'm trying to think of other heels they have that would be good for that spot. At the present moment, I can't really think of any. Actually, you know what? Kenny Omega. Given the fact that he lost to Moxley back at Full Gear, gets his win back. Finally, the AEW champion. I think that'd be a good story to tell. MJF, maybe, but I feel like also for him by that point, maybe too soon. So, I'm going to say Kenny Omega. And I said as much last week when someone asked, do you think Kenny Omega will ever be champion? Well, obviously, it's more a matter of when than if. AEW's difficulties with booking their women's division have been well documented. But what are some things they've done right so far? The entire division is not terrible. They've done a good job of building up Nyla Rose. I will say that. She's not great by any means, but she's grown on me. They've protected her. She's had some better matches lately. Bringing in fresh faces. They're not bringing in all ex-WWE talent. Some, maybe for some of the men, but for the women, they're focusing on building up their own stars. I had no idea who Kurashita was before AEW, or I knew who Chris Statlander was from one indie show. That's it, from one indie show. She's a relatively fresh face. Who was the other person? Obviously, Nyla Rose, a fresh face. They built up her very well. Riho, same thing. Britt Baker, they made a star out of her, or she made a star out of herself, however you see it. She's done well. So yeah, they actually have a good core group of players, but they need more women. Like, I don't give a fuck about Big Swole, or, Allie means nothing right now. But, they've had some really good matches lately. They built up some fresh faces, so I can't complain entirely about the division. It's much better now than it was a year ago, but there is still much more work to be done. At Ben Griffiths, 250 from Twitter, will either AEW or WWE say anything on the issues right now in the U.S.? They have. I don't know when you sent this in. I know you sent this in late Tuesday night. AEW, I don't know if they did. I know they just simply retweeted what Tony Khan had to say. Obviously, the AEW owner about, we stand against anti-racism, blah, 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 as many other corporations have. I think they just retweeted that statement, and they very well may put something out tonight before the show, during the show, whatever. Like Impact, they put up a, I thought this was really nice. They put up a graphic, not of George Floyd, but of saying, this show is for him. We're dedicating it to his memory. We are, honoring our black performers, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was really nice for them to do, to put that statement out saying they're kind of dedicating that show to George Floyd and his memory and whatnot, and the whole, that whole shit storm going on right now. I thought that was cool. I don't know if WWE would do the same with NXT. I know they put out a statement, which I was not expecting, because they didn't for a couple of days. I feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they don't, they look like assholes to some people. And if they do, it's like, oh, what took you so long? Or like, oh, you remember that time that Vince said the N-word on TV, which I'm not condoning. It was stupid. I don't know why you would do that. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're a company in their position. So they already have spoke on it. Maybe AEW, I assume they'll do more with it than WWE will tonight on Dynamite. But I guess, again, we'll see. At noob_n_co 1991, what are your thoughts on Nia Jax hurting Kairi Sane on Raw this week? Do you think she needs to be fired or suspended? Also, what do you think of the promo Nia Jax cut? I say that's a little too far. I don't remember the promo. Oh, actually I do. So I was shocked that people weren't talking about this. When Nia, maybe this isn't what you're talking about, but Alexis and I looked at each other and we're like, what the fuck? And we're not the type of people to be offended by every little thing. And I wasn't offended. I just thought it was weird. Where she was like, oh, Asuka comes out here and you go something, Japanese, and then, whatever. She was making fun of the fact that she rambles in Japanese, which she does. But why you would say that on a television show and all this other stuff is just bizarre to me. Again, I'm not a fan of the whole, Asuka's gimmick, the whole rambling thing. And it's not the fact she's speaking in Japanese. It's the fact that none of it makes any sense, and that's probably the point. But, she's all over the top, and I personally hate it. It doesn't matter whether she's speaking in English or Japanese or whatever. I just think the whole gimmick sucks. Currently, I just find it obnoxious. It's like the Iconics. It's probably not as bad as the Iconics, but it's still a bit unbearable to me. But anyway, so yeah, I thought that promo was weird for her to say like, "Oh, you're rambling in Japanese." That was a little strange. I mean, again, she's not technically wrong, but it was just a weird way of putting it. I already talked about Nia Jax earlier. You're not going to suspend her. I mean, she's not hurting people intentionally. And you can't fire for someone for being, she's not, they could, really. They could fire anyone for any reason, really. If they're not good, they cannot focus on her. But by this point, she's hurt so many people and they continue to put her in the title picture, I just don't see that happening. So it sucks that she continues to hurt people. I would put her back in developmental. And then if she doesn't improve, which she probably wouldn't, then I would get rid of her. But she's The Rock's cousin. She's The Rock's cousin, so I don't see her going anywhere. His next question, we got to hurry it up here. Do you think WWE should start doing another Asuka versus Charlotte Flair storyline this time on a more long-term run until WrestleMania 37? No. I mean, they work well together, but we've seen that match so many times that I have no desire to see it again at WrestleMania. 3 years later, Asuka just doesn't mean as much as she did at that point as the first match. They've done it on Raw, SmackDown, pay-per-view so many times. I have no desire to see that feud again. I really don't. And I'm not even sure, would Asuka be the face? No thanks. At RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau's question was, first question that is, push repackage release, Hikaru Shida, Kairi Sane, and Io Shirai. Great question. I would push Shirai. In my opinion, she's the best women's wrestler in the world right now. Repackage, and this gets tough. So I have to release Sane and repackage Shida, even though Shida's great. Sheeta's great. The issue is that if you release Shida, you're releasing their best women's performer in that company. Sane is expendable right now because she's not really doing anything. She doesn't mean anything in that Raw women's division. She could, and she should, but she doesn't currently. So, I gotta say, release Sane, because it looks like she might be on her way out anyway, and repackage Shida, whatever that means. Maybe turn her heel. I think she's perfect the way she is currently. But, you can't release Shida. She's just obviously too important to that women's division in AEW. His second question, is it a coincidence or just long-term booking that Io Shirai is contending for the NXT Women's Championship a little less than a year from when she turned heel? Purely coincidental. I feel like they should have put the belt on her by now already. I mean, she turned heel a year ago. She had a lot of momentum early on. It feels like all the momentum is gone because of Charlotte Flair kind of stealing the spotlight. She was injured for a couple of months. So it's not long-term booking. She should win. I don't expect her to. If the title's going to change hands, I fully expect it to go to Rhea. But I think there's a good chance Charlotte retains as well. So that's definitely not long-term booking. NXT likes to do long-term booking. But I'm sure they weren't expecting Io to get hurt or for Charlotte to win the championship. She probably would have been champion by now if Charlotte was not the champion. I feel like she probably would have won it over either Mania weekend or soon after. So it's definitely coincidental. But if she loses on Sunday, just hang it up, honey. Hang it up. Because you've lost already so many times. You're just a loser at that point. So she's got to win. It's win or go home for Kairi Sane. Not Kairi Sane. I'm looking at your other question here. For Io Shirai on Sunday. She is too good to continue to be wasted. Just way too good. She's awesome. And should not continue to be booked to look like a complete fucking loser on this show. After also seeing the spot from Raw, how can WWE continue to push Nia Jax after hurting Kairi Sane on Raw? I already said it earlier, but they don't give a fuck. Nia Jax's husband, Nia Jax's husband, that makes no sense. I'm losing it. I got no sleep last night. Very little sleep, I should say that. Not little, but less than usual. Anyway, she's The Rock's cousin. She's been around for a long time. She's menacing. To me, she has no redeemable qualities at all, aside from maybe being a nice person. She's just unbearable in every sense of the word and not in a good way. She's had some good matches, but usually that's due to her opponents. And she just hurts a lot of people, and her promos are terrible as a character. She does not interest me at all. So they push her because she's a dominant monster heel in that division, and that's about it. At Jeremy8911, thoughts on Dominik Dijakovic being rumored to be called up to Raw. I like it. I feel like it might be a bit too soon. I know he's been around in NXT for a year and a half. So it might be not soon enough, actually. But, he never won a championship in NXT, and he probably won't. I mean, he went for the North American Championship God knows how many times, and lost every single time. So he probably won't be winning that. I guess it makes sense. As long as NXT doesn't need him, and they can continue to replenish the pot, then yeah, I think a call up to Raw would be fine, as long as they handle him the right way. I don't want him like Riddle to be called up and then do absolutely nothing. I mean, that'd be a complete waste of his potential, talent, whatever. Dijak I'm a big fan of, so I really hope that they do give him the call up. that they actually do something with him, and they don't just call him up to lose to, for example, Humberto Carrillo. He got he got a lot of TV time. He's had a lot of TV time on Raw since he got called up in late 2019, late last year, back in October as part of the draft. But the guy never wins when it matters most, so he's a glorified loser. I do not want that same thing to happen to Dominik Dijakovic. Technically, he also never wins when it matters most in NXT, but I feel like it's worse on Raw when you're on the show every single week and you're losing. Jeremy, speaking of Matt Riddle, second question, who do you think should be Matt Riddle's first feud on SmackDown? Good question. I hate to say Baron Corbin, because I feel that feels like a black hole to me. But when I interviewed Matt Riddle a couple of weeks ago, he said Corbin, because Corbin eliminated him from that, multi-man brand warfare elimination match at Survivor Series, and dumped him from the Royal Rumble 2 months later in like a minute. So they have unfinished business there. That would make sense. I feel like it should be something exciting. I know Nakamura means nothing, but maybe they could have some good matches. Nakamura, Cesaro. I'm not sure if you have him feuded like AJ Styles off the bat. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I would say probably Corbin, because Corbin's got nothing going on right now. And AJ would be cool, but I would build that over time. So probably Corbin, as much as I hate to say it. Maybe he kicks the fucking King gimmick right out of him, who knows. But if not Corbin, probably Nakamura or Cesaro, who we could have a lot better matches with. I'm at BASMRMSW from Twitter. I think this was directed at Adam Cole, because I'm interviewing him tomorrow, but I'll answer it here anyway. Is Adam Cole leaving WWE after the NXT pay-per-view, so TakeOver on Sunday? He could. He very well could. I could absolutely see Undisputed Era getting called up after Sunday. I mean, Roderick Strong's been floundering for a while now. Fish and O'Reilly have been floundering for a while now. The issue is, can you even call them up in a full right now? I mean, Kyle O'Reilly is not around. I don't want to see Cole show up with just Strong and Fish. I want to see all four of them on Raw and in front of a crowd. Which is why I want to see Cole hold on to the NXT Championship. That's the thing. I don't think now is the time to take that championship off of him. Especially when he's facing Velveteen Dream of all people. So anyway, so with Cole, he could absolutely be called up. I actually do expect it in the next couple of months. I really absolutely expect it. I don't want to see him get called up yet. I don't, not with no audience. I think that's a bigger deal than Dijak or Riddle. I think just at Undisputed Era would be a big pop if they were to get called up at any point. So, I could see him getting called up. I do expect it, but I hope they don't. And even if he does drop the championship, maybe they do a rematch and he loses, or he feuds with Keith Lee formally, or I'm not sure what else you do with Cole, but I would keep them around for a little longer until there's crowds, personally. Even though they have been in NXT for like 3 years now, which I know is way too long for someone of his talent, but I also, under these current circumstances, do not see a role for him right now on Raw. Maybe, but just not right now. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, final question. Best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars number 33, so from last week. The best from NXT and Dynamite, I loved the Fight Pit match between Riddle and Thatcher. I thought that was a great main event, the best thing in either show. I thought the Drake Maverick Kushida Jake Atlas match, the triple threat to kick off the show, is very good from NXT. From Dynamite, another awesome opening match with Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks versus Joey Janela and Private Party. Very good match. The FTR debut was very well done. I thought that was great. Cool moment. The Cody promo was great as always. And then the Mike Tyson moment, I'm not a big fan of the match, but, it brings in a lot of buzz. I mean, not really. I guess a lot of people weren't talking about it after Dynamite went off the air because it didn't pop many Google searches I read from somewhere. So anyway, I thought it was a cool moment with Tyson. It could have been, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a rehash, and why would you bring in Tyson when Jericho could feud with fucking, I don't know, someone else on the roster that's an active member of the show and not Mike Tyson of all people. To me, it screams Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman, where I know, Tyson Fury's a big wrestling fan too, but Tyson's established and more people know him, and he has history with Jericho. I get it, but is it necessary? Not really. Though it could be entertaining. So that kind of goes both ways. The worst from both shows, there really wasn't a lot. Just kind of the weakest parts, I would say. The Charlotte Flair, Chelsea Green versus Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai match was good. Not as good as it probably could have been, considering the talent involved. And not only that, but Charlotte pinning Shirai, what a fucking loser. I mean, Shirai just can never seem to win whenever it matters most. I know she won that ladder match about a month or two ago, but still, I thought that was a little questionable. The Britt Baker promo was good, not her best promo, but it was kind of weak compared to her other recent mic work. And the Hikaru Shida versus Chrissy Jeans match, way more competitive than it needed to be. Way more competitive. I was not a fan of that. So, it was decent, but it could have been, it really should have been a straightforward squash/showcase for Shida. But overall, they were two very good shows. Looking forward to tonight. Not really sure which show I'm watching first. Probably NXT, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Either way, guys, thank you as always for checking out episode 340 of #AskGSM here today for June 3rd, 2020. You can be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Coming up this week, we have Wrestle Rant radio excerpts. We have a Total Bellas review on Friday, SmackDown review on Saturday, Break It Down with our Truth review on Sunday, and then the review of the WWE 24 on Ric Flair coming up on Monday. So a lot of talent. A lot of content is what I meant to say. I'm looking at another question here in the documentary. I got to head on out, guys. As always, if you want to send in a question real quickly, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. And to leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Stay safe, stay positive, and I'll catch your ass down the road.